The Transformers have fallen, as Francis Maxwell calls Kentucky University Wildcats. They lost. They lost to Wisconsin. It wasn't the biggest upset in NCAA history, but it sure was a big upset. Now, following the game, there was Andrew Harrison, amongst many other Kentucky players who were not acting the most mature that they possibly could have, specifically Andrew Harrison. We have the audio of what he mumbled under his breath, but, you know, in 2015, there's ways to boost those audio levels, and it's very clear as to what it was. Let's take a quick look.
George Schroeder, USA Today. This is for Carl. I wonder if you could talk about Kaminsky and what makes him so difficult to defend, and what, if anything, is unique about defending him, things he does.
For Carl?
So there you have it, a moment of immaturity and irresponsibility when it comes to being under the spotlight of a press conference. Now, when it comes to these type of post-game press conferences, for kids that are 19, 20 years old, there's a lot of outrage towards this, and I really hate the internet outrage in terms of the word of it, because a lot of people seem to agree with internet outrage, sometimes they disagree with it, and this, of course, is not a racial thing. Stephen A. Smith had something to say that I want to get to first before we come back to Hannah Cranston.
All right, Stephen A. Smith came out. He's obviously against the correlation with it being a racial slur and used in this context. He comes out and says that it is not meant in the context that an African American would embrace it as if it were coming from someone white. Now, I understand that there are a lot of people in America that are a bit put off about that. They are a bit offended by that notion, but what I would implore to everyone is to get over that. That is a reality that you're never going to escape. And it's an intricate issue. You don't want to get, you can see both sides of the argument. Some people view it's a double standard because if used by someone who is white towards an African American, there would be uproar. And there was uproar over this. I think more of the case has to be made for immaturity from Kentucky as a whole standpoint, from walking off the court without shaking hands to basically just not acting professionally after you went through the full season as a dynasty. To lose against a team, you should respect an opponent that has just overthrown you from that crown that you were trying to be the undefeated team. That was immature, and then it's just reenacted in this press conference. And I understand that this is a kid who's now 20 years of age. There is that excuse for it being immature, but I think there's a further excuse that can't be an excuse because there's not a lot of other kids that have done that at the age of 20. There's tons of college students who are in this press conference who are not trained to enact in a press conference the way they should be, but they still don't come out with things like that. I think that he needs to be held accountable for that, and he has been, and he's apologised. I just have to agree with Stephen A. Smith that it can't be taken in the same context if switched around.
Right.
I completely agree with you. I think it was immature. I think they should be kind of briefed on how to behave during press conferences. It was also dumb.
Yeah.
Like, you know you have a mic on. You know what I mean? That to me is just, it was a poor decision.
It was a poor decision, and one of the things, but he also has taken, Andrew Harrison, we're speaking of, took the exact right steps to at least try to correct this situation. We have the quote from him where he said, "I want to apologize for my poor choice of words used in jest towards a player I respect and know. When I realized how this could be perceived, I immediately called Big Frank to apologize and let him know I didn't mean any disrespect." Frank Kaminsky shot back, "I'm glad he reached out. He's a nice kid. He said he really respects me and really apologizes for what he said. I can tell he was sincere about it."
Yeah.
So it's one thing to make a mistake. It's one thing to look at it as an excuse. It's another total different angle that you are under the spotlight and this thing happened.
Yeah.
It's another bigger step to man up and realize what you did and apologize for it. So it's not like, and what should happen is this should be forgotten about by this point and hopefully by the end of next week, because after tonight, there's a national champion, and Kentucky is not the story anymore. Unfortunately, they're 38-1, and moving forward, Wisconsin or Duke will be the 2015 national champion.
Right.
The issue there, Frank Kaminsky summarizes the way everyone should be taking this. He just takes the high road. He's like, okay, it was a stupid mistake, I'm over it. But people in this country, I'm afraid, will use this as an excuse to spark an argument, a further argument, because they love to argue. They love to argue about this. This is why you're still consistently split in this country, because people love to take things like this, take it into a broader context and start a huge argument. It doesn't have to be there. It's something about Stephen A. Smith that I have to agree on as well, and some people may agree or disagree. The word that is causing the controversy itself is used as an everyday word between African Americans to communicate to themselves. Should that word be removed from the vocabulary? Yes, maybe it would cause a lot of the issues to probably go away if it was removed, but that's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
And it's not going to, and we understand that. So to say that when used in this context, it can be used in the exact same as if it would be if it was reversed is ridiculous, because it's not. It's said with so much more hate. It's said to implore something completely different, rather than basically what Harrison was saying in this way was "fuck that guy." That's what it was used in that instance. You know what I mean? Like, which we say, sometimes you say it as a way to respect an individual. When you're saying, if you see Cristiano Ronaldo ping 3 shots in the top corner, you're like, "Oh, fuck that guy, man." He's just scoring. Like, that's what happens. And I don't know whether he used it in that instance, but that's the way I took it.
I mean, the reality of the fact is, like, we all F up. Like, we all say things we don't want to say, we don't mean, or whatever. Unfortunately, he said it on the spotlight. He said it in front of however many hundreds of thousands of people, and that sucks, and we don't know what that's like. So move on. Like, we have a big game tonight, and that's what it's about.
I like that. Move on. Well, it didn't just end there for Andrew Harrison, at least, Kentucky University, because as most college campuses will do across this country, when your team loses, or sometimes wins, but usually when they lose, riots happen. And we have a video. Of course we have a video. Let's take a look at what Kentucky University looked like after that game ended. So as you can see here, we have something on fire being thrown up into the air and laid back down. The audio was basically all mumbled along. You couldn't hear much besides a lot of people screaming, what you'd expect a riot to be. But Hannah, I wanted to ask you, before we get into the Duke versus Wisconsin argument, and we have a lot to bring you regarding that.
It's not really an argument. We all know Duke's going to win, but you continue. Please
Badger Nation will rise. But, so, you were a Dookie.
I was.
Graduated. Wonderful university.
Thank you.
I like UNC more, but that's okay.
It's okay. You're wrong.
We can still be
friends.
friends.
We can agree to disagree.
You were telling me before about a tradition that you guys have, usually during big championship games, or because you guys are always in the championship game, or versus UNC. I want you to elaborate because this is awesome.
All right, so every dorm at Duke has a big bench that they kind of have in front of their dorm, and they decorate it. And for big games like the UNC game, or when we won the championship in 2010, everybody will go out and they'll carry the benches into the middle of the quad, and we'll burn it. And it'll be a big bench burning, and they build this like giant bonfire of benches, and it's an awesome tradition, and I am excited to see all of the footage from that tonight when we win.
What is
fighting words already?
I know. I'm sorry.
What is considered rioting? Is burning a jersey considered rioting, or burning something?
No, I don't think that's rioting.
Like, I understand there was arrests.
There's a major difference between sports riots and
soccer riots.
Sports riots in general, and then of course like political riots, which you see in Ferguson, Missouri, like. Totally different. One is usually in less violent act. Although I've seen college campuses across the country been flipping cars, taking down field goal posts. People get injured. Usually, most people just get arrested. Because
I also think it's a matter of private and public property. So if we're having it on our private campus, that's one thing because it's controlled and we have campus police and everything like that. But if you're on public property, if you're in the middle of the streets like they were for Kentucky, that's a whole different ballgame. No pun intended.
The puns. There's puns on Think Tank too, which you can find Hannah Cranston on. So let's move forward lastly to the last bit of this segment because Badger Nation versus the Blue Devils. Duke versus Wisconsin. I really did not believe Wisconsin could beat Kentucky, so I'm freaking out already.
No, everybody and their mom had Kentucky on their bracket and winning their bracket. So it was a big upset. It was kind of I thought both games were kind of boring, frankly, on Sunday because they were both kind of
Duke just blew out Michigan State.
But in terms of Wisconsin, there was all this hype around Kaminsky, which he's a really good player. But my view was on Decker for Wisconsin. I thought he was absolutely phenomenal, and I thought that he took the ball. He had balls of steel. Not to use puns from Hannah's case, but he did.
Funny show.
He was not scared to drive against two humongous players in Towns and Stein. He was not scared to drive to the basket and try to get some layups and also shoot from distance. And I thought that he carried the team on their back from the last quarter. I think that he was a man that stepped up. So with him at their side, I have to say I fancy Wisconsin.
So the one thing is Sam Decker has stepped up big time, and Trayvon Jackson, who is now back on the team. He was injured for most of the season, but he stepped up big time as a scoring option. Francis, I know I mentioned it to you. I'm not sure if I've mentioned it to you, but the only way to beat Kentucky was to rain the three ball. As my father has mentioned in a text message to me, he's been raining threes before I was even born, because when I asked him about that, I didn't even think he knew what it meant. And he sent to me, we're going to rain threes. Okay, well, geez, my dad is a Wisconsin Badger, hence why I grew up rooting for Wisconsin and still do to this day. But I didn't think they could beat Kentucky. What scares me about Kentucky versus Duke, on the other hand, is that the players on Duke match up better than Kentucky did against Wisconsin. Justice Winslow has become a phenomenal player in this tournament. Tyus Jones is an all-around amazing point guard, a true freshman, and of course, last but not least, Jahlil Okafor.
What has he got again? Has he perhaps got the biggest hands I have ever seen in my whole life?
Picture.
It looks like he is holding...
Should be there.
It looks like he's holding one of those Nerf basketballs.
Got it.
Like you slam dunk in your college dorm room, one of the little like spongy balls. Look at that thing. It looks tiny in his hands.
I can't even hold a basketball with two hands. I feel awkward trying to shoot. That is one ridiculous
That's what
thing.
and especially when you see Jahlil play, it makes it and this is for a lot of potential NBA players and players in the NBA already, when they're palming that ball out, it's like looks like they're holding a baseball.
Yeah.
Because it's baseball season. Hashtag opening day. Had to drop that line in there.
Hashtag
So
asleep.
real quick, let's have some predictions. We love to put our next set on the line on TYT Sports. Francis does it all the time for the soccer coverage. Hannah, I believe, does it all the time for Think Tank coverage.
Sometimes, yes.
Francis Maxwell, score and winner.
I'm going to go 66-61 Wisconsin.
Fantastic prediction. Hannah Cranston.
I'm going to guess in the 60 range.
Yeah.
I'll give you that, but definitely Duke. Duke's going to take it. It's our year. It's time.
You've had
Go
so
Duke.
many years. This is the first
That
time
was a comment as if you're a
No, but we
mate.
haven't won the championship since I was a freshman.
Oh
and now
my
I'm
God!
out of college.
A
I wanna
5 whole
win.
years.
Come on.
Man, you're talking to a Knicks fan here who hasn't smelt a championship in how long?
I haven't smelled a playoff series in how long?
41. You guys haven't had a
1941.
championship.
Oh, Jesus.
Very good statistic over
thank
here.
you.
So I have Wisconsin winning this. I had Kentucky winning this originally, but now I want to see Wisconsin win, so my fandom's coming out. Wisconsin's going to win 85-23 in the greatest blowout in college basketball history. No, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think you're going to see a lot of high-paced offense. Both of these teams are lovable. I can't believe I just said that about Duke. I think it's 82-78 Wisconsin. Hopefully it's that close of a game because we want it to be that close of a game.
I mean, here's the thing: they're both really great teams. I think it's gonna. What I think it's gonna come down to is the energy that each team brings, because they're both good. But you saw in the Kentucky-Wisconsin game, like Wisconsin had it in their eyes. Like you could see in their eyes they wanted to win, and Duke had it when we played Michigan State. And now it's just gonna be who comes out with the biggest fire. I think.
Clash of the Titans, not the Transformers. Are you really upset you can't use that reference anymore?
Yeah, but I'm happy with Frank the Tank. I love that comment. Frank the Tank's the man. He takes
It
over
was
from the
his birthday
Transformers
when they
comment.
beat
Yeah.
Kentucky.
Did you see the song they sang towards
Yes,
him at
his
the end?
birthday, yes,
Yeah, it's Frank the Tank.
It was great. And of course, there's also the memes where you have Frank the Tank from old school, which is
Yes.
amazing. And I hope he pulls that move out during this
That would
championship
be great.
game. Regardless, someone's cutting down the nets tonight, whether it be Coach K or Bo Ryan. It's going to be a great game. We're looking forward to it. Leave your scores and predictions, and most importantly, your thoughts on Andrew Harrison in the comments section below. As always, from Francis, Hannah, and Jason, don't forget to subscribe.